Wait for it. Wait for it. And we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, a Stabby chaos coordinator, and one chief shenanigator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home. And we're going to go round robin, and we're going to start with you, Nick, because it's been so long because the Coast Guard keeps you busy doing their job for them over there with Border Patrol. And I figured you might want to introduce yourself to people who forgot what you look like.
Well, thank you for that pre-introduction. I'm Nick Garber. I'm the president and CEO, artist, founder of Apogee Comics. We're an independent comic publishing company that not only deals with tights and masks, but we're open to the idea of westerns and some other things that delve into the weird and fantastical, much like this show. Like JR said, I'm a Border Patrol agent. I'm on the Marine Operations Unit. So I get to drive a boat for the federal government and get paid pretty well for it. And I love it.
Is there any truth to the rumor when you're drawing the tights and cowls that you wear tights yourself just to get in the mood?
Oh, you don't really want an answer to that.
Oh,
yes.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, I call it the photo morgue. And so anything that I think would be cool, whether it's like a reference for like an action pose or the way a cape flows or sometimes, and this is why artists are weird, especially comic book artists. Like I'll be walking down the street, I'm like, oh, that's a really cool mailbox. Hold on, let me put it in position. All right, got it. Because I want to use it as a photo reference for some sort of cityscape scene or whatever. I got so many pictures of the skyline of San Diego from the water that I'll never get to draw because I've hired people to draw stuff that is in San Diego. So, but yeah, there's a lot of pictures of me wearing ridiculous stuff.
The cool thing, though, is that literally the day after we recorded the Princess Bride episode, but before it aired, he was on the water at night and somebody was having a party where they were having an outdoor viewing of the Princess Bride.
Yeah, it was at the Raid Shell. Yeah, so we're on the water. All the other like little yachts and boats and pleasure cruise were dropping anchor. They didn't want to. They were all these people have all this money and they're such cheap shits that they just went to the outside, didn't have to go in the venue, and anchored and watched it for free.
Nice.
But just the timing I thought was kind of cool. All right,
Jana. Actually, JR, I think it's also notable and that we should point this out for our viewing audience that he's been gone for so long that he has facial hair again.
Yeah,
the last time you were on the show, you had shaved it all off.
I was clean shaven.
Yep. And now he's back to being Scruffy Nick.
And I just trimmed it too. Like it was all bushy last week, and then I was like, "This is too much. It's too hot outside. I got to trim it down a bit."
On a scale of 0 to Duck Dynasty, where do you want to end up at?
Ooh. When I retire, I'm thinking wizard, like Gandalf.
All right.
Yeah.
I can dig it.
Buy some property up in Montana and just wear wizard robes and people just think I'm the town kook, you know?
I can dig it.
Which I will be.
Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean you're wrong either. All right, Jen, I know technically you're a co-host, but could you introduce yourself and your multiple personalities to our listeners and viewers at home?
Absolutely. I am Jana S. Brown. I am the chief shenanigator, which means that I'm kind of the mom of the podcast. And that's sad, but true. I keep everybody doing the things they're supposed to do, at least most of the time. I also am a writer. I write under the pen name Jana S. Brown and also under the pen name Jenna Ray, where you can find all things that are the weird, the wonderful with a few smoochies, things that go boom, all of that kind of stuff goes under Jenna Ray. And there's a lot of other personalities floating around out there, but we don't talk about those here.
All righty. One day we'll get her to confess all on a tell-all documentary over here at the Blasters Blades. But until that day, we've got Mr. Rob Howell returning, our favorite history nerd.
Well, at least I'm somebody's favorite history nerd. I'm Rob Howell. I write fantasy. I write science fiction. I'm actually working on historical fiction right now. I've written alternate history. Basically, and I'm writing a mystery as well right now. So I've got a lot of things on my plate. I also spend a lot of time, and one of the things that brought me to this particular show is I spend a lot of time writing in Luke Gygax's World of Ocarine, which doesn't really show up well on the
Hold on, let me see if I can do this.
but my name is right down here. So I wrote this for them. This is the one of the main initial primers for that. I also did a heck of a job. Had a heck of a time creating all of the gods.
Now, can you show us? There we go.
There we go.
Hey.
That looks cool.
Ah.
I know, right? Right. Bow to my awesomeness. Actually, that was just pure luck that I stumbled into that gig, and it's been very awesome and been very lucky to do it. They've been very generous with me. And one of the neat things about tonight is I got permission for some of the NDA restrictions to be eased a little bit, and I can talk about some of the gods we have in that universe that we really have just kept on the Patreon for the subscribers. So,
Hey.
Sweet.
here you go.
Cool. And I really enjoyed showing that. I am sorry, people. I do not know how they got all the settings. Every time I learn them, StreamYard changes them. It's like they're a grocery store where I find everything and then they move it. But next we have Mr. James J.E. Pittman, who's a Acme employee when he's not writing books.
I figured it was the appropriate shirt for tonight, given we're talking Trickster Gods and Wile E. Coyote is amongst the more modern of the bunch. Hi, everybody. I'm J.E. Pittman. I write the Felix Chance series of books, which really center around a trickster god and his influence in the modern world. I also write action military sci-fi with Pandora Squad. I write a little bit of horror, a little bit of other stuff. There's some smoochy, stabby in the near future for
At
all
the
those.
same time,
Maybe.
Jesse was strangely interested when you said that.
Well, Jesse knows what I'm talking about.
Hey, don't be ashamed.
So, a little bit of everything going on under the sun in my worlds.
Look,
So
some of the
Jana,
best advice.
we talked romance tropes in the past and offline. Is that a romance trope? We Stabby to lovers? Is that one of those things?
Yes, actually, there is a whole thing for post-battle canoodling or during battle canoodling. I have a sign that I gave to a gal that I edit. Well, I told her this, and she made me a sign, so it hangs out there. And it says, "We do not pause in cutting down the monsters for heart-to-heart talks or sex." And that happens all the time. It is a well-worn trope, even though it's a dumb one.
I was joking, but I stand corrected. Jesse, introduce yourself.
Look, all I'm saying is the advice you get from every old man is to never waste a certain biological function when it happens. And if it just so happens to have during murder. Yeah, anyway. Hi, everybody. I'm Jesse James Fain. You'll soon also see me as Tyrus Drake. The difference between those two is going to be how much sex you like with your violence. You're going to get the violence either way. That is what I write. I write violence, sword fights, fist fights, gun fights, any kind of fight that I can manage to squeeze into a cool world or a different news story.
What kind of sword fights?
Not the kind of sword fight there seems to be implied.
Don't cross the streams.
Squeezing it in.
So what you're saying is not in the infantry. Got it. All right. So with that out of the way, Jana, I am sorry. I will apologize in advance for where I can see this going. I'm sorry.
Look at the whales that are over there.
I used to run a fighting troop of 70 knights. I can handle 5 of you.
Okay.
There you go.
So first, we're going to do the religion question, and there's only one today because we want to dive into the topics. That's something we started doing with the panel discussions because I just think we're here to talk about a topic. It's just more fun to get right to it. So before we do that, we do have to say we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle-dragging troglodytes. So coffee or tea, and how are you taking it this fall, Nick?
I recently switched over to Rise Mushroom Coffee.
Oh?
Because it doesn't have caffeine. It's supposed to have like these health benefits or something. I don't know. It tastes okay. It was a better alternative than decaf, which is just useless brown water.
It's water that's sad. That's what it is. So
with Rise, they add things like B12 in there, like a bunch of vitamins to boost energy levels.
Good for you.
Some other stuff. Yeah, it's supposed to be healthy. It's got a hint of dirt to it because it's a mushroom.
Does it taste good?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good, and it comes in different flavors. It it's expensive as hell. It's like you get a small little pouch for like $44. So I'm giving it a run. If I don't really see any health benefits for it, I'm going right back to the high octane stuff. My heart be damned. I can't live that way.
All right, Jesse, what are you drinking this fall as a newly married man?
Yeah. Well, marriage has not changed my my warm drink taste.
No arsenic?
No arsenic yet. We'll see if she gets tired of me. That might change. No, so far, hot chocolate. I'm a hot chocolate guy. Though James did recently have a Irish coffee made with Scotch, and that I'll make an exception for that.
All right.
It was a damn good Irish coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of James, what are you drinking this fall?
Well, since we discovered that, we're at my birthday, and the bartender, I'd gotten a bottle of Writer's Tears whiskey, and it was aged in Mizunara. It was okay. But then a buddy of mine who was at the event was having coffee as well, after dinner, nightcap. And he was just like, hold up, sip, sip. Damn, that's good. And I was like, bartender, can we use this in the Irish coffee? And she made it, and it was amazing. So probably going to be going with that a little bit more this fall.
All right. Rob, I'm going to guess because as the history nerd in all of us, you're drinking mead as the Vikings intended.
Actually, not a fan of mead. I don't like sweet drinks. I also don't like hot drinks. I'm too sexy for hot drinks. All that hotness. I pretty much drink iced tea and bourbon and IPAs. That's pretty much it.
Attaboy.
Okay. I used
to iced tea, by the way, not any of that. I'm from the South. I can call it Southern crap.
Which brand were you talking about?
Unsweetened iced tea. I hate sweetened iced tea.
I don't know how I feel about you now, Rob. I think we
don't like table wine.
As I sip on my sweet tea, unsweetened with zero sugar sweetener.
I mean, he does like stabbing people from history, so I don't know. I might give you what do you call it, clemency, or you can buy some indulgences. That's what
it's like that. It's like football, JR. It's like the penalty's offset.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. I used to say nobody drinks IPA except for pretentious hipsters because I don't like the way it tastes. But apparently people like it. Who knew?
I actually love them. I can't drink. I really have a problem drinking beers that don't have a ton of hops in them. There are some porters that are really good. There's the occasional stout that can get hoppy, but a lot of the stouts, like Guinness, is just too sweet for me these days. My palate is very, very bitter. I am a bitter fan, and I drink bitter drinks.
Do you think that it came with age, or?
No, I've been bitter all along. No, I never really liked. I never really liked sweet drinks. I've never liked coffee. I didn't. My tastes in beer. I mean, obviously, my tastes in 1990 heavily involved the dollar to quantity ratio that changed as I grew older. But I've always gone for
your booze choice,
the heavier, bitterer stuff.
You reach a point where you realize you're not 20 years old and in college anymore. You can drink it because you like it instead of just to get drunk.
Yeah, there's other options.
I have no need to get drunk ever again. I probably will, but I have no need to.
Yeah. All right, Jana. I'm sure you're going to surprise me and tell me you're drinking a hot Dr. Pepper because it's winter.
Dude, that's a thing.
No. If you warm up Dr. Pepper, it loses the fizz. Now, it does have a decent flavor warm, but it loses the fizz, and my Dr. Pepper is to be fizzy and very, very cold. But I did break open my hot chocolate from Coffee Brand Coffee, who dear listener, you'll hear about that at the end of the show. And it is fantastic. I have the peppermint and I have the caramel hot chocolate, and they are both amazing. So that and passion fruit tea are kind of my warm drinks during the winter. I take the dog out for a walk, and then I come home and I drink tea because it's really cold.
Okay, so I saw this YouTube, and it's also been floating around on the Facebooks this video about supposedly people in Arizona, Colorado, and the Utah area drink their Cokes and Pepsis with coffee creamer. And it's a thing. They're calling it dirty insert beverage. Is that
Yes.
something you do?
Oh no, because so the actual dirty thing is a combination of coconut and lime, and then you add the creamer to it. I don't
Okay.
like it with the creamer. I like it just with the coconut and the lime because the creamer blunts everything too much. And so I don't actually order a dirty diet Dr. Pepper because they'll put the dumb creamer in it. So I have to tell them I just want one with coconut and lime. But it is a thing. Swigs and flavored sodas is a thing that we've been doing out here for forever, and it's become ginormously huge, and we are now infecting the rest of the nation. Because it's yummy.
Hold on, I'm looking for my handgun.
Zombie apocalypse started.
I am.
We don't put creamer in it. That's gross.
I'm still,
Yeah,
for my coffee, it's still, French vanilla with French vanilla creamer and whole milk, which, you can get from Coffee Brand Coffee as well. But because I'm started drinking more, because now that I use whole milk instead of, 2%, instead of the actual coffee creamer, which is like hella calories, I can have more coffee. So I think I'm going to upgrade from my Keurig and actually get a proper coffee pot again.
Did Stabby tell you what she switched to? And she's dropped like 20 pounds just doing that.
Yeah, she said she dropped the creamer too. She went to just the syrups.
No, she went to half and half.
Yeah.
Isn't half and half like heavy milk, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
half
heavy
milk,
whipping
half
cream.
cream.
Yeah.
Why is that helping you lose weight? That's got calories in it, more than 2%.
Not about the calories; it's the healthy fats and protein.
Interesting.
Process
I'll have to look into that. But yeah, so I've been
It's a
doing
big
the.
keto thing. It beats putting
I'll have
butter
to
in your
look in-
coffee.
It's not as bad as Jared Garrett, who put peanut butter in his coffee. So I mean,
Yeah.
Ooh, that
I
sounds
know.
good, actually.
Oh my God, Nick. All right. So I've been doing the coffee and then the occasional latte. I did get my yearly pumpkin spice latte because I'm a basic white girl.
That's true.
But I can't afford the calories, so I get one a year and only one. But I paired it with a nice pumpkin scone and a pumpkin cream cheese muffin because I'm going big, right? Do it once a year.
Get it, brother. Get it.
And I've been trying the hot chocolate too because I ordered 2 and I hid one. So when my mom thought she was stealing mine, I still had some.
Nice.
Oh wait,
You have a
does she listen to
cunning
this
plan.
podcast? I might be in trouble if she listens to the podcast. She might come looking for the other one.
We have to have a decoy.
In Mom's
Yeah.
Cheat, they do that. I spent X number of hours in labor with you. God, it's
While
not
I was
fair,
walking to college in the snow, uphill both ways.
right?
Oh,
So,
trump card.
Just
who is it?
go ahead and order another one, JR. That's
Yep.
all there is to it.
Jana,
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
use that card too?
Only as necessary. It's a very powerful card, so like other things, you have to know when to play it. Because if you play it too many times and you overplay your hand, then it's not nearly as effective anymore. So you have to hold it for the
True.
right moment.
That's the ultimate mom card.
It's true.
My best dad card is, back in my day, phones had cords attached to them, and you had to dial them in a circle.
All right, so we want to talk about Trickster Gods, but I don't want to belabor the point. So we're going to pause real quick while we shamelessly shill for the man, and then we're going to jump in nonstop, balls to the walls for the ending.
From darkness to destiny, Layla awaits. Blinded by fate, Eric awakens to a new life on a remote farm, cared for by the enigmatic mute Layla. As secrets unravel and adventures call, can love conquer the shadows? This gripping fantasy, unearthed from antiquity, delivers pulse-pounding action, divine interventions, and timeless themes of worth and courage. Layla, available on Amazon. Ignite your imagination today.
All right, thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. And now let's dive into the topic that brought us here, Trickster God. So first, let's define the terms. What is a Trickster God? Anyone want to give us an example or a definition?
A mischief maker who either intentionally or unintentionally tries to teach you a lesson. someone who relies on cleverness to achieve their goals, and generally agent of chaos.
Right. But then you also have to underline the deity part. So there has to be, not has to be, but there generally is a higher power that's connected with it. They may be immortal, very often are immortal, and they're very often connected to a pantheon of other gods. It's more rare, I won't say impossible, but it's more rare to see a one god situation and the trickster god is the only, because very often the trickster god is being played off of the other deities. And so you tend to find them in pantheons that have multiple deities because they fulfill such a lovely role, both in their relationship to mortals and their relationship to the other deities.
They're like
God
the
enables.
classical fool in the courts. They have not necessarily carte blanche, but they have the ability to speak more truth to those in power without, heavy repercussions than, say, your regular gods in the pantheon. There's a mirror and a foil too.
I would also add that their motivations are not necessarily anybody else's. They want things, they go after them. It's not necessarily what everybody else expects.
And they do sometimes get caught up in their very own traps. We talked about how Wile E. Coyote is very much a modern version of the Coyote Trickster God. And at the same time, he continually boils himself in his own oil. And you do see that in a lot of the legends of the Trickster Gods, that the setup is there. And sometimes it's the god that comes out on top. And sometimes it's the mortal that ends up pulling something. And Trickster Gods are also a deity that allows themselves to look foolish. And are they really foolish, or was that part of the entire thing? So there's interesting questions with the way that things appear in the long run.
Often they are hoisted by their own petard.
I've been thinking about this ever since you said Wile E. Coyote was the trickster god, and I get the reasoning. But honestly, I'm not certain that it's the Roadrunner that's not the trickster god there. I mean, yes, Coyote is a trickster god in the Native American mythos, but what if Wile E. Coyote, or what if the Roadrunner's tricksterness is to ensure that all the cunning plans of Wile E. Coyote don't get flipped around in a subtle way? I mean, if I'm going to pick a trickster god out of all of those cartoons, the trickster god I pick is Bugs Bunny.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But also, you got to remember, there are a lot of trickster gods that are dual aspect.
Fair.
Like, for instance, if you go to like the tarot, there's no like one trickster, but the trickster archetype is defined by two different cards: the Fool and the Magician. So the Fool, going around, exploring, getting into trouble. The Magician manifesting, like Jana said, the divine hand, the Deus Ex Machina that gets them out of it. So yeah, I can see definitely Roadrunner and Wile E being the dual aspects of the trickster deity.
That's fair. I can see that. I mean, as a dueling trickster gods is it's not like they're going to ally together. Trickster gods are by nature sort of individualistic, and so they would almost always, if you have multiple in the same pantheon or the same area, are almost always going to be conspiring against each other, with maybe rare instances of alliance for
Keeps
a particular
them in balance.
Purpose. I'm sorry, what?
Keeps them in balance.
Agreed.
All right, Jesse, put your 2 cents in because you haven't yet, and you too, Nick.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any good definition. We're talking about a tradition that spans across the globe. So I don't think there's any one definition we're going to narrow down to. A trickster god is a god who's famous in his mythos or her mythos or whatever mythos for playing tricks. And that's common across tons of cultures. You've got coyote or raven in Native American traditions. You've got Loki. You've got Lu from the Tuatha the Celtic peoples. There's Sun Wukong in China. There's, the list goes on, and almost every major geographical region has one, and it's just simply the god that uses trickery and intelligence more than strength. That's the easiest way I can explain it.
Well done. Points to you. Why do you think, like, that's, so we've defined what it is. Why do you think it's such a popular concept that it keeps appearing and reappearing in modern mythos, in literature, in fiction?
Because they're fun to write. You know, especially if you have like a serious themed story that's ongoing. You know, having a trickster god in there, it's like one of my favorite episodes out of Supernatural is when Gabriel / Loki would show up. Because everything was going fine. Next thing you know, they're in a television show about their own lives. Or like just all these weird things happening. So it's like it's a really good foil to the seriousness of the characters in like a drama, even though it's a supernatural drama or a sci-fi or horror. You throw that little monkey wrench in there, and as a writer, that's like, okay, let's see what happens when I disrupt the plan. You know, the audience is expecting this, but we have introduced this character, and now we're going to see if this character that's been introduced is actually this character. What? You know, and everything goes fun and it goes wild. And sometimes, and like we've already established in the show, sometimes the trickster wins and sometimes he loses. But even when he loses, he still kind of wins because it sets up the next prank, the next trick. You know, and I think that's what's so great about that type of archetype in storytelling is that it's just throwing a bunch of bees in there and seeing and just illustrating and writing down what's happening and making it as kind of funny as possible. And maybe there's a little lesson to be learned there because that's the point of the trickster. And well, most of the time he's trying to teach you something, but sometimes he's the a-hole of gods.
Yeah.
You know,
It's also
9 times out of 10, it's him just having fun. It's for his own laugh.
Yeah. It's also a very relatable character.
Do you think that they have to be portrayed sometimes, like Loki in fiction is often described as a little bit nuts? When you see Shigarath, the Daedric Prince of Madness in the Elder Scrolls universe, dude's off his rockers, bonkers, crazy. I see a lot of times you see the trickster gods as portrayed as insane. Joker could be kind of a stand-in for a trickster god almost.
Considered a trickster god if he was immortal.
I would say not insane, but creative. If I'm going to use some weird examples, Lethal Weapon, I mean, Mel Gibson's character is insanely creative, but he's also the trickster god of that particular show in my mind. I mean, he's always creating havoc, but he's doing so with as a creative way to get past whatever challenges that are in front of him. So I wouldn't necessarily say insane. I would say creative.
Unconventional.
Yeah.
Well, and that madness is often a mask. Go, Jesse.
Well, I was just going to say, it's a very human, like, this is, I think a lot of stories, either because we're built from gods or gods are one of these truths is self-evident. Either the gods are built from our imagination or we are built from the gods. One way or another, there's a reflection of that. And that reflection is that there's that guy's real. That guy that likes to mess with stuff, to poke at you. And the guy that maybe wasn't the strongest, the fastest, or anything like that, but when he would come up with something crazy. In Greek myth, you have Achilles, and Achilles is physically unstoppable. He's a nightmare. No one wants to fight Achilles straight up. But then you have Odysseus, and Odysseus may be great with his bow, but his legend is built off of his brain and the crazy things that he comes up with to balance stuff out. And they're both regarded as these great warriors, and they both have these massive epic tales that are told about them, but their strengths are very different. And so I think that's why it continues to show up over and over and over again, is it's human. Our intelligence is what separates us from animals. You can't fist fight a gorilla, but you can outsmart one.
Wait. Who says you can't fist fight a gorilla?
And when
you can, you're going to get wrecked.
There's cans and there shouldn't.
Yeah.
Next on Blades and Blasters, JR fist fights a gorilla, and we're all here to watch.
Oh Lord.
Just interesting 30 seconds of the podcast.
So to go back to what Nick, you said that to be a god, they would have to be immortal. And technically, I would say yes for a god, but I think the trickster god is almost an archetype as well as technically a god. And so you see people filling that role that aren't technically gods. Wile E. Coyote isn't immortal. He isn't a god.
Oh, yes, he is.
Ah!
How many times have you been doing it?
How many times he's been crushed? You telling me that
Dropped
that
off a
dude's not
cliff.
on a pantheon somewhere?
He doesn't age. He gets wrecked all the time and pops right back from it. If that is not immortality, I don't know what is. And I do think there is a difference between the trickster as an archetype, as a character, and the trickster gods, because that extra thing of the deity, of the power that is innate there, is different than like the Jack Tales, where Jack is a trickster. And Jack wins the day because of the way that he works with his intellect, because of the way that he pulls tricks on other things. And so maybe but there's a line there, and there's a difference there, because the way that what a trickster god wants is very often different than how a trickster functions.
So with Jack, I know very particular because I based a lot of Felix off the Jack Tales. He starts off as the trickster archetype, yes, but he ends up an immortal Ice Doulahan. So he graduates from his mortalhood when he tricked the devil and God from taking his soul, so he's cursed to walk the earth, now being immortal, essentially. So you can start off as the trickster character and then upgrade, you know?
I think you can become that, but I don't think they are innately the same thing.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a dash line between them totally exists. You do see those become that archetype, but they're not innately the same.
Yeah. And to your earlier question, JR, about the madness, well, what's that old quote? There's a fine line between genius and insanity.
Yep.
And the trickster gods are portrayed as being the smartest people in the pantheon. So either they're playing jump rope with the line, or it is a mask, or they're smarter than anybody in the room, and so they appear mad, even though they are the most sane one. Like, Nick, correct me on this one. Isn't Joker's super ability hypersanity?
Yeah, he's not insane. He has hypersanity. So he sees the world for what it truly is, and that
it's a perspective.
Like crazy talk. Yeah, you are correct, sir.
So we're talking intelligence versus wisdom. Since we're talking gaming, we might as well use the old dichotomy there.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about some of the ones you've got written in the Gygax world that you're working on, since you said you had some there that you've been developing.
So one of my favorite ones in there is a god named Nurhoff. And the reason why he's one of my favorites is because he's so challenging. I didn't create all 10 of the major gods. In fact, I was given their names and a basic idea of what they were by Luke, because it's what he had. But these descriptions were things like Bushira, she is a god of the sun. And so that's kind of all I knew. And I got given 3 evil gods. And since I was doing something for D&D, and since I wanted to spread out the alignments and actually use the alignments, I had 3 evil gods. So one of them had to be chaotic evil, and one of them had to be neutral evil, and one of them had to be lawful evil. Well, I had a perfect candidate, a god of fire that was chaotic. The god of death really felt like he was neutral evil. So made me have to figure out how to make the trickster god be lawful evil. And the way I did that is he's a lawyer. Everything he does is a contract with the intent to teach people to read contracts well. He gets everything he wants. He tricks people routinely, but he does so by just letting them fool themselves. And that's how he is designed. And his subordinate gods, because each one of these main gods has 3 subordinate gods, each one of his 3 subordinate gods play on that to some extent. Now, 2 of his subordinate gods are neutral evil, but one of them is also lawful evil. And again, He's letting people trick themselves by putting them in positions where it's their own assumptions that make everything go astray. And I really like that from my perspective, because I mean, in real life, how many times have we screwed up because it was our own assumptions that that screwed us up? There is another trickster god, a chaotic neutral trickster god. So I have sort of that traditional alignment structure there. He's a god of alcohol. He's one of two gods of alcohol. Luke's in the army, so it seemed to make sense. There was at least two gods of alcohol. This one is the god of getting drunk and causing havoc. The god of chaotic hangovers and bar brawls and that sort of a thing. And that's Nichuab. But Nurhoff is the one that I really enjoyed because, again, we almost always see chaotic as the alignment in D&D gods, and making him lawful, making him the entire other way was something I really had to think about and be creative with. So that's where I went with it.
I like that you had, because of the army tie, you had two alcohol gods. I approve of that.
Actually, to be fair, that was also Luke's preference as well. So, and I had to differentiate the two gods. One of them is the god of being in pubs and having a good time. The other is sort of the god of raves and brawls. So that's
with this being for the gaming world, are you doing it where you're just giving the base outline and then stats, or are you actually building deep lore that might be used in novels and other forms of media as well?
The draft I gave him of the 10 major gods and 30 minor gods is over 60,000 words.
Okay,
every one of them has a description of their dogma.
Details.
It has a description of their church. There are many of them have descriptions of things they have to do to gain their spells. One of the gods of gambling, actually, when a cleric gains their spells, they have to roll 2d6. If they roll a 2, they lose a cantrip for the day. If they roll a 12, they gain a cantrip for the day, or an orison, sorry, depending upon the setup. But I went through and created what they'd wear when they were doing rituals, what they'd adventure in, gave them heraldry. So they all have heraldic devices that I created for them. So there's a number of symbols for each, done in proper heraldic style, because I'm a heraldic geek as well. It's pretty detailed.
So what went into planning that out, since you have to give the format for designing essentially from the floor up a trickster god?
Well, I mean, let me just start. I think there are two questions there. This right here, Faiths and Avatars, the book from the Forgotten Realms, one of three, and the other two are hidden behind it, were my inspiration for this. If you haven't read them and you're into gaming and you're into running clerics and paladins and druids and whatever else that follows gods thoroughly, you want to get them. It may not be the game system. You may never play second edition, but the structure and all the information they give on those gods, even if you never play those gods, it's really interesting to read that stuff, to learn about ceremonies and the kinds of things that you can put in games for gods, and just things to make clerics be more powerful, and more powerful not in game terms, in terms of massive spells, more powerful in the kinds of characters you can run. I almost always play clerics and paladins, and I love them. And a lot of the reason I love them is because of what those were created, those books gave to us. And so how did I build all those things out? Well, to a certain extent, as you're doing this entire pantheon of what ended up being 40 gods, to a certain extent, I'm trying to come up with something the other gods haven't. So each magic item, like each of them got magic items and a holy order, at least one holy order, and an extra new spell. And yeah, maybe they're twists on spells, existing spells, but that's fine. the point being is that I'm trying to make sure that they all had some extra flavor. So when you play a cleric of Bushira or a paladin of Zolog or whatever, you've got something that you can walk around and you have a theology in mind. And that was that dogma is important. Every one of the dogmas I created has a short TLDR version, like stone is law, law is stone. Zolog is the god of stone, and he's the god of law. So those two had to intertwine, and then I expand that out. And then along the way, since I've got all these gods, I started creating rivalries between them, because some of the gods have really good reasons to be rivals. Nurhoff, for example, again, trickster god, but he's the legalistic trickster god. He is obviously a competitor to Zolog, who's the god of law and justice. And so obviously those two have to have conflicts, and so on down the line. So building a pantheon, you're building a certain amount of balance, so that you get connections throughout. Because truth is that a pantheon is, it may be a family, like in some pantheons, like the Greek gods were all brothers and sisters at some level. But the truth is they're kind of family, and you don't get to pick family, which is why I think pantheons are interesting as a whole, not just the individual gods. Did that answer your question? I think I went far afield there. But
no, you did. It's just interesting because you're at the ground floor of designing a pantheon, so I thought it was kind of interesting. And since you're sharing it here first, we figured we'd get that in there.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I dominated there for a little bit. I didn't mean to take so much time.
You're good. So, James, have you written, since I know Felix Chance has some weirdness going on in there that kind of hinted at maybe, have you written any Trickster Gods yourself explicitly?
Oh yeah, explicitly. I've used the trickster archetype in 3 different stories, 2 of them currently unpublished. I based one off of the Cunning Man in English and Welsh folklore, along with the Raven King. So he's definitely a trickster. But let's just say when Felix comes up in readings, he always pops out as the Fool and the Magician. He is an unknowing trickster god. You heard it here first, folks. I admit it publicly. Felix Chance is a trickster deity. In the second book and in the third, well, let's just say he's cheated the devil, charmed the fae, and stolen time. As any good trickster does.
Like him.
So yeah, it's really fun to write him that way. With that in mind, he often cheats his way out of stuff. And the third Felix, I do explain exactly kind of how he cheats. That's one of the running things I had going, keeping Nick strung along there, figuring out how he cheats at cards and dice and life and everything. So, it's been really fun to play with that, explore, and just see where it takes me.
Was that something that you designed from the jump, or did it sort of evolve and you realized that's what you were writing?
Oh, it evolved. I mean, I have a tendency to write Trickster Gods anyway, thanks to, the living embodiment of Coyote these days, Mr. Bill Murray. So I always include those little nods, and it just kind of took hold. And I'm like, Felix, he's an unreliable narrator. He's a liar, a thief, a con man.
Cook.
He's a cook by, conscription. And he just kind of finds his way into trouble, or it finds him. And as you learn throughout the first book, you learn why he's actually, you learn more in the second book why trouble always finds him. And it has to do a bit with a bit of a fair folk shindig that was quite amusing to write and very low key. I love doing that. You ever just write those momentous, series changing scenes, almost just kind of just drop it and let it go, and then watch the reverberations as people realize exactly what just happened? I love doing that. It's always so much fun. Just keep it so tight. So seemingly innocuous and like, wait, what? All right.
All right. What about you, Jesse? Have you written any of the short stories you've currently got out? And you are muted, so you'd have to unmute. There you go.
No, not anything that's currently published. I am currently writing a work that contains the Norse pantheon. So Loki, of course, will make his appearance at some point. And it also depends on how you feel about Odin. Odin's one of those characters that kind of walks the line. He's regarded well for his wisdom, but that wisdom and the gift of prophecy often leads to manipulation. So depending on how you feel about that, you could count those. But no, not in anything that's published. All of my tricksters are mortal and most of the time end up dying.
They should.
Okay. What about you, Jana?
Oh, let's see. Press that button. Now, guilty is charged. In my fantasy trilogy, there is a trickster god. He doesn't get to play as much of a central role in the first set, but he is critical in the next trilogy that I'm working on. But he gets mentions there. And I've got some urban fantasy stuff that deals with voodoo and the law. And so we deal with Papa Legba, who is a trickster god there on the Baron Samedi. So playing with some of that, yes. And then I did some stuff on Coyote at one point because I live out in Utah, and you kind of grow up with those stories because that's a very close with the Navajo being part of Southern Utah's background. So I've written some stuff involving Coyote.
All right. What about you,
like
Nick? Have you incorporated that into your pantheon of superheroes for Apogee?
No, not yet. There is a plan because Apogee's use of gods is a little different. Like they're not true gods as in like immortals. They're just aliens that have been on the planet for a really long time and have advanced technology, which probably what gods are. I don't know yet. I'll find out when I die.
So basically the Superman trope.
Yeah, a little bit more like the Superman trope is that Earth is like a place for like space refugees, and we're going to deal with that in one of our annuals where we see that happen. And then that'll be our first big event. And that'll probably be the next 2 years. And then the next big event after that, because of that intergalactic refugee crisis that just lands on Earth, we're going to segue into a story arc called The Old Gods, where you're going to find out the pantheon of gods from different religions, they're all like dying out, and they're seeing how humanity is. And there is a trickster god in that mix.
Did I hear you say that Men in Black is a religious film?
Me?
Yes. Men in Black with all the refugee aliens coming here and the
if you follow the Superman trope, yeah, it is.
Okay, my mind places nobody else.
So Men in Black is essentially space ice and space border and space OFO. It's space CBP is what it is. Like when I took this job and I rewatched the Men in Black trilogy, I was like, okay, they're just us with cool suits. I got to wear like these green utilities and I get to drive a boat. Like they get really cool like Armani suits and Oakley sunglasses. Like I got gypped. But true story, when I was in the academy, because I am a human trickster god, in the academy, they always refer to the people crossing over as aliens. And so we hear that, and it's like, I'm probably about 2 months into the academy, and I raise my hand. I'm like, why would aliens be from like Honduras? Like, I thought they'd be from like outer space. And I said it so seriously, like deadpan. I'm like, I came here to fight aliens, man. And they all kind of just looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, nah, I'm just playing. But I had them going for like a good 3 to 5 minutes. They're like, oh man, is this guy like, like, why would you think you're actually fighting aliens? I'm like, I thought I was joining some MIB shit.
Oh my.
All you got to remember is swamp gas.
Swamp gas reflecting from Venus. Look here.
All right, so
I did ask him where my neuralizer was, and they also laughed at me.
So a lot of what we talked about was, I guess you'd call it urban or paranormal sort of fantasy set, modernity and traditional fantasy. Do you think there's role for the trickster god or the trickster god archetype in specifically science fiction? So outside of the realm of Earth or second worlds that are historic.
Look at Q.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where I was going to go.
God.
Go
and
on.
of course, there's that great. Well, I don't know about Trickster God, but maybe Trickster Race, and that's that great science fiction story, To Serve Man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's just put it this way: fantasy or sci-fi deities or aliens, there are going to be, races or all-powerful entities that just really love screwing around with people. It's a fun hobby for them.
It's fun.
What Denneman does in Dungeon Crawler Carl, he makes Earth a game show for aliens, essentially.
Yeah.
Here, Earthlings, survive this dungeon and win back your planet for our amusement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, and I think often it ends up lending itself well to the I want to say like a kind of like a Moriarty in a way. But it lends itself well to the mad scientist or the grand schemer when you start involving science fiction. I feel like that the trickster god or the trickster archetype, they work really well in that setting, because you've got somebody that's just developed some really deep scheme to upset the galactic status quo. And there's not as much like God moments, though it would be cool to do something where it's like, humanity branched out in space and all of a sudden the gods reveal they're still here or something like that. That would be fun. Age of Zeus kind of stuff. But I think it does function well when it's well written. It's just hard sometimes because to write a trickster, you have to know one. You have to come up with the trick, and that can be really difficult.
Can go back in time, Epic of Gilgamesh, and the whole Anunnaki ancient alien thing. Enki was a trickster deity among the Anunnaki. He did not want to flood the earth, so he gave I can't remember the proto Noah, the heads up to build an ark to save people. Like, hey, look, all of these other people are going to flood the earth. I don't want you to. Or, Prometheus stole fire to give to man. That, even though it's in a mythological wrapping, it's technology. It's providing man with technology. So, you can always.
That's a really common one. That's not even just Prometheus. That's common in a lot of trickster deities, is stealing something for humankind.
Yeah.
Crow did it.
Sorry, James.
Fire. Crow did it with fire. Kitsune did it in Japanese myth. Sun Wukong, like you mentioned earlier, the Monkey King. He was an agent of chaos fighting against the celestial Imperials in Chinese mythology. Again, bringing their technology or magic, depending on which side of Clark's third it falls, to everyday mortals. So it's right at home in science fiction. It's right at home in basically any type of storytelling where you provide some kind of knowledge or education to mankind.
Well, and that is kind of a thing for a lot of trickster gods. For as much as they're also yanking our chains, they tend to have kind of a soft spot for humanity too. But it's like, if they all die, then I don't have anybody to pester anymore. So I can't let that happen. And I do want to kind of poke at the rest of the pantheon. So you get like Hermes in Odysseus' journey, where he pops up and he's helpful at several points, but mostly because he's looking to piss off everybody else. And again, if Odysseus dies, then there's no more game. And so they do tend to be on humanity's side to a certain degree because they like to see what we're going to do, and they like to, he can't be taught. Look at the monkey dance. And very often the tricks also teach the person that's tricked becomes wiser, or there's a process they go through. So Trickster Gods fill a lot of different gaps there as far as what they're doing with humanity, and not very often do we see them as the big force of humanic destruction. They're usually the ones that are trying to keep us around.
Yeah, it's just like Q
pets.
and Star Trek Next Generation.
Yep, we're pets.
He sends the Enterprise off to meet the Borg or puts them on various trials, but he always snaps them back because he likes Picard. And even when he shows up on
you don't want to break your toy.
It's hilarious when he shows up on DS9 and starts messing with Sisko, and Sisko punches him in the face, and he's like, "I'm not Picard. Picard never hit me. I'm not Picard."
Yeah, no, Picard.
I'll knock you out, son.
Sometimes
and he goes on to deal with those
shows up.
deities in the wormhole.
Okay. Do you think they're as well received when you're talking specifically about them in science fiction as opposed to fantasy and urban fantasy? Or do you think they're equally as well received regardless of the venue?
Well, it's really hard to make them completely likable. I mean, if we're going to take the save the cat trope, the trickster god is often not going to save the cat, which means that oftentimes we're not going to like them as much as we might like the hero. So I would say that, we look at Q, for example, and everybody kind of despises Q, even unless even when he gets forced into doing something right, as you pointed out. But the same is true about Loki. I mean, Loki, as Tom Hiddleston portrayed him, is definitely much more sympathetic. But in the sagas, he's not really sympathetic at all. He's definitely not someone that you like. He is there because he creates change within the cosmos, which I think, philosophically speaking, that is the trickster's god. There's so much change that people run into on a daily basis that it's no wonder that so many pantheons have a trickster god. That they've got to have something to personify change. So I don't know that you can like them because they have to kill the cat every once in a while.
But I think that more often they are absolutely going to save the cat, but they're not saving it for any of the reasons that we would typically see in that format. They're saving the cat in order to get it into more trouble. They're saving the cat in order to draw the hero along to do other things. So it's just, their aspect is their own.
But sometimes they let the cat die, and as you say, they save it for their own means, which isn't sympathetic. Oh, I've just saved the cat from falling in this vat of oil and thrown him into a pit of snakes. Well, gee, thanks.
But only because the snakes are funny and because the cat stands a chance. Because it's always got to have that hint to it.
It depends on who the cat is and to the trickster's perspective. Is the hero the cat? Or they're going to save the hero because they like messing with the hero? It just depends on the perspective. Does the trickster see the hero as the cat in their story, like Q with Picard? Yeah, I'm going to dangle Picard out over tragedy, but no, he's safe to mess with another day.
Yeah, but that's still not a sympathetic character. I don't root for Q. I root for Q's demise. I root for Loki.
Sympathetic. That's different. Yes.
Oh, no, I'm not saying whether it's sympathetic or not. I was just pointing out depends on your perspective on who the cat is.
I see that.
But going back to JR's question, I think the hardest place to justify it is phenomenally hard sci-fi. When you get into that really narrow niche of hard sci-fi that is nut and bolts kind of sci-fi, that's a lot harder to get that audience to buy into a trickster god because that's not why they're there. They're there for the nuts and bolts of space. But I think other than that, space opera, military sci-fi, things like that, I think you can definitely get acceptance across most of the rest of speculative.
Yeah, the hard sci-fi, the only thing that might even come close to fitting is what Jesse was saying earlier, the mad scientist. It's like, here's your crunchy science behind it, but I'm going to do this because I want to see how you react in my experiment.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not a god, but hard sci-fi can turn easily on sheer bad luck.
Mhm.
Yeah. But he's playing a god. Not necessarily a god, but the mad scientist is typically trying to play one.
That's true.
So, is there anything about the concept, broadly speaking, of Trickster Gods that you think we need to address before we wrap this up? Because it feels like there's a lot more room for potentially a second panel, but we don't want to be here all night because Jana will get mad at me if I don't let her sleep eventually.
That's right. I'm an old lady now. I have to get my beauty sleep.
I think that there is room for a beneficent or good trickster god. It's rare, but we do see it. I brought up Lu earlier, and Lu is a sun god and a warrior's god, but is also a trickster god. And so I do think it can be done, again, playing off more of that like Odysseus style archetype. It's just really rare, and it's rare for a reason, because that's generally not the trickster god's purpose in a story.
Okay. Well, then, as we bring this puppy to a close, this is the part of the interview, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right book, so do your part. Speaking of reviews, since you're in the gaming world now, Rob, is there a place where people can review those if they're getting them outside of the Amazon ecosystem?
Yeah, Patreon is where Gygax Inc. INK has their stuff. They have a Patreon, and we put out a module every month, and we put out supplements consistently. And it is just go to patreon.com and search for Gygax Society. That's if you're not familiar with the name Gygax, it's Gygax and then Society. Look there, subscribe, and you'll get, like I say, at least a module every month. As a matter of fact, I'm tomorrow going to finish another one to get churned out, and they're pretty fun. We're doing some neat stuff with modules, a lot of creative ideas, and they've got some neat module mechanics that I'd never run into that we're really having a lot of fun playing around with. So neat stuff. But Gygax Society is where you would go for all that.
All right. And since you already told us what you're working on now, where can listeners and viewers at home find you on the wild interwebs?
I am Rotary2112 on X. I am at robhowell.org or firehallsagas.com. Firehall Sagas is my main fantasy series. If you want to read my military science fiction, it's part of the Four Horsemen universe. So go out and look up the Four Horsemen universe on Amazon. And of course, I have an author page on Amazon, and it's some sort of weird author link number that I never remember. Just search for me on Amazon and you will find me. We've got quite a few things out there so far and keep putting out more.
All right. What about you, James? What are you working on now? And then how might we stalk you on the wild interwebs?
Oh, what am I not working on right now? So as far as the writing goes, I'm working on the Saint Germain letters spinoff of Felix. That's going to be a novella trilogy that kind of gives a backstory to the Immortal Alchemist and his dealings with Felix. Some of those little side stories I teased at in the main series. You get some more, well, not really answers, but different questions to ask. That's kind of how I've been phrasing all the Felix related stuff. Somebody said it was like Jeopardy. Your answers come in the form of more questions. I'm also putting together a Kickstarter for the Felix First Trilogy Omnibus. I'm going to do a special, nice, swanky edition for that coming up. And the other two audiobooks for the mainline series are currently in production. So, yeah, what am I not working on?
Sleep, apparently.
Yeah, no sleep. It's where you can find me, halfacrepond.com, on the socials, j.e.pittman, or on the Book of Faces, it's J.E. Pittman Writes, at a convention near you in the future. And you can also find me as the madman behind the crowded shelf Co-op bookstore coming to bigger shows in 2026. Yeah, sleep with that. I don't know.
Speaking of bookstores, Rob, how's yours coming? You were working on one with that property you bought in the haunted basement.
Yeah. Funny about the basement. Yes, the bookstore's going on great. It's really a quilt store with a book add-on because I'm a writer. But we're Red Dragon Quilts, reddragonquilts.com, and it's gone really well. We do have books, and actually, I just been spending a lot of time in the basement cleaning it out. I had the wonderful pleasure of taking 6 truckloads of interesting material from our basement to the dump last weekend. Trust me, nothing in there was sentient recently. We do have spare
recently.
We do have spare coffins if anybody needs a coffin. We've got some upstairs.
That is oddly specific, but
we've got several types. We've got one that's all metal, and we've got one that's very plush and the kind of thing Liberace would like. And we've got all sorts of coffins. We've got coffins for kids too, if you know some in your neighborhood that really need it.
Okay, Jesse.
Wow.
What are you writing at the moment, and then how can we find you?
I am wrapping up my first Tire Strike story for official publication. It's going to be called Swan Song, and it is a assassin who is going after 2 big bosses in the human trafficking world. And so that one's going to be a lot of fun. It's probably going to be about novella length. I'm working on Gravesinger, which is my first full-length novel. That's set in the Holy Diver and the Midnight Sea universe. It'll be the first full novel there. And then eventually at some point I have to get around to the next Rune Red Eagle story. But I'll have to, figure out when I squeeze that in with the 8 billion other things I'm always working on. As far as finding me or my work, you can always find my work on Amazon. Everything I have officially published is there. You can find all of my socials at outlawauthor.com. From there, that'll take you to Substack, X, Instagram. I have a Facebook page. Again, feel free to add me. I always say that, but it is Tattoos, Guns, Heavy Metal, and my particular brand of snark. If you don't want any of those things, then do not show up. Yeah.
All right. Since we've discussed that some of us on this panel like history, and you mentioned heavy metal, how do you feel about Sabaton?
I love Sabaton. Sabaton, I feel like, is a really good gateway for some of the crazy stories in history. And it lets you remember cool facts really easy because they're in song format. I believe that's one of the origins of music, is remembering stories. That's literally that. It's stories are referred to as songs at times. So hence the Song of Ice and Fire. Anyway, point being, Sabaton's fantastic. I'm a power metal fan, and they scratch multiple itches at once. And I think that's cool.
What about near death metal?
I like the regular kind, so near death metal's probably works good too for me. We'll see how it goes.
Some kid was living with his grandmother because his parents kicked him out because they didn't like his music because it was demonic because it was death metal, and she saw it and thought it was fun. So rather than kick him out, she joined in, and because she was 80, they, instead of calling it death metal, they called it near death metal. So now Granny is in the band with them.
The first album was 1 Foot in the Grave.
Fantastic.
Hey, you got to meet people where they are, right? And just because they're old doesn't mean they're dead. So let them enjoy what they enjoy.
No, Christopher Lee did his heavy metal album. He did one of them at 94, I want to say. He was up there.
Nice. All right, Nick, since I know you've got something new coming out and you haven't been on for a while because work has been kicking your backside, who knew the Coast Guard needed you to do their job for them?
Coast Guard, Air and Marine Operations, the Navy. I mean, my Lord, my back is hurting carrying this team.
So what are you working on now? Because I know you got a new release coming out. This is going to air right around the time that comes out. So you want to tell us about it real quick? Just the Reader's Digest.
When is it going to air specifically? So I don't give too much.
Yeah, no. This episode is going to air on the 26th, so just right before Thanksgiving. So right after.
So by this time, Quickwire has already been released. I just put the order for the books in today. The printed copy of Phantom Hawk Resolute issue 1 will be out. We have already completed the Comic Arts San Antonio Comic Con in San Antonio, Texas, and we had a wonderful time. But yeah, Bengali 4 is going to be next in the shoot after Thanksgiving. We're kind of looking around, probably around February or March at the pace that the artist is doing. I run a comic book sweatshop, and this guy's out of Uganda, and he likes American money, so he works really fast and does like Nike. We'll just call them Nike hours.
Okay.
So he's pumping out work pretty good, and it's amazing stuff. And I kid, I'm not exploiting anybody that I know of. But yeah, we got a lot of things to book that we can prove, and I can be held liable for legally. But I have a good lawyer, so we should be okay. It'll keep me out of at least 3 prisons. The 4th one, I don't know, it's touch and go, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, so we're rocking and rolling. 2026 is looking like it's going to be a really good year for us as we come out of 2025. We're kind of leaving it with a bang and going in full steam like a locomotive in like the late 1860s. Just
so do not. This is the pre-New Year's warning. Don't end this year like you ended last year. All right, we don't want none of that.
No, that was 2 years ago, sir. 2 years ago.
Wow,
and no, I have no intentions. I'm taking all my meds. Nurse Stabby is really good at that, at threat of knife point, to make sure that I take everything the doctor prescribed, and that I'm doing my 30 to 45 minutes of cardio, and then I'm like watching my salt intake and switch me to decaf, to which I might smother in her sleep while she's sleeping.
Or dirt water coffee.
Or dirt water coffee. It's really not that bad if you put enough crap in it.
Which defeats the purpose of it being healthy.
Which defeats the purpose. So, yeah, I'm doing my best to stay healthy and stick around for at least another 47 years to annoy everybody. Especially my children, who I love so much.
So, Beta Books has a couple of anthologies that will be coming out, including a should be releasing. Amazon has been weird lately. We're recording this at the day before Halloween, and there seems to be some back-end shenanigans and hackery going on. And so
every September.
Nothing is working like it should, but we should be having another Christmas anthology come out that I have a story in, and just anthologies in general because I love short content. So look for those. Jesse has one that he edited, and he had the nerve to tell me I spelled stuff wrong. What the hell is that about?
What?
Hey, look, man, you hired me to do a job. I tried to do it. I'm not saying I did a great job of it, but I tried.
That's fair. I'm with the outlaw on this one. That's fair. You hired him to punch you in the balls. He punched you in the balls. You can't be mad about it.
All right, and last, but certainly not least, Miss Jana S. Brown, who sometimes cosplays as Jenna Ray.
You can find me over at Linktree, linktr.ee/Opal Kingdom Press, or you can go directly to the press at www.opalkingdompress.com. Otherwise, under these pen names, you can find me all over the internet. I am the loser of hide and go seek on the wild web. So if you want to find me, you certainly can, much to my son's chagrin. And what am I working on? Well, see, by November, by the week this is coming out, what I will be working on is pies. All the pies. I think I'm on deck for 22 of them this year. So there will be lots of pies happening that week, and not a whole lot of writing. But otherwise, JR and I are still working on the reboot series. We will hopefully be getting the first books locked up so that they can come out next year. That is military fantasy lit RPG. And we are most of the time, we're having a really good time. Right, JR?
Absolutely. Life got in the way for a little bit. I hired a developmental editor with the Wargate one that I was writing with James. It just got too emotional every time I try to get my outline so I could finish it. But I owed it to his widow to get that out, so it's earning money for her. So I went and hired a developmental editor who's got experience ghostwriting, so he's used to working with existing works and working on it, and he's helped me come up with an outline that works. So I should be getting back in that one as well, in addition to the reboot. So
yes. we'll get Reboot out the door, and then I've got some urban fantasy stuff coming together. And I just put up a 3rd anthology. I will have new ones kicking off in January of next year. So next year there'll be 4 anthologies from Opal Kingdom Press. So if you are a writer or an up-and-coming or an old friend, keep an eye out on those because I could use some more great stories.
All right. And you can find us, a dear listener, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We've got our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com for professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink those coffee brand coffee caffeinated drugs until they're high on their own supply. And if you want some of that coffee brand coffee, you can get some at the link in the show notes below. Use the code podcastgrunts. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win, people. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy and present co-hosts, I am JR. Was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time. We'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. I just realized if we had Stabby here, we'd have the trifecta. We'd get the hat trick.
We would, but she's not here this time.
She had to go get sick.
So we're going to go with the Gordie Howe hat trick.
We'll take the win. So Jesse, James, and Jesse, James. See what I did there? And Rob, thank you for coming on. We enjoy your company as always. And I'm here for the dad jokes all week. Tip your waiter, try the veal.
Press the button, Frank.